Okay, now I'm ready to rock.
All right, go.
Okay, well, sound and audio should be good. Let's just try and remind myself of these bloody questions. Thank you. Okay, right, the purpose is to record and have some experience of members and what they were like in the 12-step recovery and who had achieved over 30 years in the fellowship, and give them a chance to view some of their hard-won experience and the evaluation of what they experienced. There was some NA words there stuck in from the text, sounds good. And to learn what worked for them and what did not work. Okay. So the intent of this video is not to be shown,
Just for archive.
just for archive purposes solely. Thank you, Dudley. My name's Frankie, and I'm going to introduce Dudley, who I welcome, and thank you for allowing this recording. This is still at the development stage, Dudley, so your input's fantastic, and anything you can add to it, please freestyle. We now begin, and I'm going to ask you 12 questions that I've written down earlier. Into the camera, or you can look at me. Totally. Okay, whatever you fancy. Okay.
Probably turn out both.
First question is, what was the first meeting you ever attended?
The first meeting I ever attended was on August the 5th, 1979, in a clubhouse that was then on Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. The reason is that I, like several addicts in London, have been going around what I call the Mother Fellowship, which is AA, looking for help. And although we were given every encouragement, we couldn't really talk about our stuff. By giving every encouragement, what I mean is that the popular concept is that we were thrown out and we weren't, in my experience. And so when I was in the West Indies doing a film, I used to turn up at the Mother Fellowship meetings every now and again to try and show what a stand-up guy I was. I was actually about 9 stone 7 at the time and looked as sick as a fucking plank. So I wasn't a very good advertisement. Anyway, what happened is that when I got to Miami, I went to a meeting and there was all these old people. And I was complaining about it the next day, and somebody said, well, why don't you go to the Young People's Group? Now in 1979 I was 40, I was born in 1933, 49 I suppose, 46. Anyway, the math's not my strong point. And so anyway, I went to this Young People's Group of AA, and around the room people were saying the name, and then they were saying, a lot of them said alcoholic addict, alcoholic. And that was the time that I knew that my game was up. And I met a bunch of them afterwards, and we talked. And it never occurred to me that I was an addict. I knew I had an alcohol problem in the 60s. But we talked, and they said, what have you been using? And I told them. And they said, how long? And I said, well, about 13 years exclusively. And they said, well, 13 years constitutes a habit. Do you want to come to an NA meeting? So I was picked up the next day and driven down in this very swish van with mean music playing, and it was all about image, really. We're going through Miami and down into the town. And there was this lovely little clubhouse which is not there anymore. And I walked in, and two things happened. One is that I realised that I was completely at home with my people. I don't understand, I mean, it sounds a bit pompous, but I just felt completely at home. And the other thing is that there wasn't a recovery text in those days. There was little white books and pamphlets, and one of the pamphlets, I just read a description of myself. And well, I didn't believe that anybody knew what was going on inside me, and I certainly didn't know that anybody would be able to write it down. And also I always thought I was the only person who felt like this. And it made me cry a lot when I read that little pamphlet. I can still remember my eyes were swimming, and it had NA on the front, and then it had all this, I forget which one it was. There was one that said, we're not interested in what you used or how much, who your connections were, what you have, all the rest of it. Only what we can do to help with your problem. And it did make me cry. And my difficulty then was, what do I do when I get home? So I was in Miami. They said, well, go back to the meetings that you've been going to in AA when you get home and say, my name is Dudley, I'm an addict, an alcoholic and addict, and I'm clean and sober here today through the good help of my higher power and the fellowships of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. And so I did that. And I said, if I do that, they'll say, well, he's an actor, he's just overacting, it's all a load of bullshit. But they didn't. They just said, wow. They said, we always wonder, because you'd helped an awful lot of people and had never seemed to be able to help yourself. Tell us about it. And this went against the grain of what we always assumed. AA they'd throw you out, you know. I don't like phrases in NA that are anti-AA. That's why I keep insisting on calling it the Mother Fellowship. We don't need to be rude to our mother. We don't need to call it bedwetters or red noses or any of the things that we like to use to make us feel more sophisticated, really. And it doesn't help. We've got to be friendly to our friends. You know? Anyway, so within a year of that happening, absolutely to the day, which was August the 5th, 1980, Thursday, by then a few people had come up to me, Johnny and Keith and Giles and Janet and a few other people, I can't remember now, it's so long ago, and come up and say, what's all this about? And this had been going on for a year, and then this guy called Sean in the Mother Fellowship came up and he said, listen, I'm sick to death of hearing you guys talking about drugs. I thought, oh, here it comes. And he said, here's a starter pack for an NA meeting that he got in Frankfurt in Germany, and he chucked on the table in the cafe that we were all having supper. And he said, you can use the Thursday night in Millman Street in Chelsea, in this hostel. The rent is £3 a week, negotiable. I live in Chelsea, I'm going up there. £3 a week negotiable, and why don't you start your own meeting and fuck off? Irish guy. And so that's what we did. And on August the 5th, the Thursday, I believe, 1980, we started the first meeting then in London. And we were so terrified, I was terrified, we had a few pamphlets. I think I'd lost the ones that I'd had and got brought back from in America. But we had just these few pamphlets and we didn't know what to do. Although we'd been seen the AA meetings, we just were in a state, we didn't know what to do, so we just sat there the first time and read all the pamphlets. You know. And then some people from the local Mother Fellowship turned up because they thought we had better looking girls than they did, I think. They came out to suss the talent, they didn't stay very long. We did have the best girls, but oh God, they were crazy. We were all crazy. I mean, I don't know how me and Johnny and Keith didn't kill each other. And there was another guy, I forget his name now, who was a plumber, and he came out with a plumber's hammer one day, with a hammer. Because I'd promised to be in court for him. And he was so fucking flying. He looked around the courtroom, I'm sitting there, he didn't even see me, and when he came out he attacked me for not being there. It was kind of great. But
okay, so question number 2. what I thought up was, what was the first suggestion that you ever followed?
Keep coming back. Simple enough, that's all.
Okay. The third question on this list is, when did you first get a sponsor, or did you even know about sponsors?
We knew about sponsors. But I didn't really take it all seriously. It's very strange, it was a very strange journey. I was in NA for 12 years, and I'd been on all sorts of committees and lots of service positions and treasurers and secretaries, and been to service conferences and all the rest of it. And I'd been thrown out as an actor. I'd been thrown out, blacklisted, I think, by the West End Theatre in 25 years before, 23 years before. And I was back in a play in the West End, standing at a bus stop to go home after work, and I was just raging. And I remember thinking, if this is what recovery is about, fuck it. But then I came across a guy in the Mother Fellowship who had been like that and had got rid of it. And so I went to him and I said, look, I want what you've got, will you sponsor me? And he told me what he'd done is he'd gone into treatment after several years in recovery. So I said I'd committed that I'd do what he did. He was and there was a section in NA that was anti-treatment. I believe that the fellowship is an addict, and it was an addict that was young in recovery in England. So there were lots of antis going on, lots of attitudes were going on, lots of people vying for positions. I was trying to keep out of it. I am prepared to go to any lengths to recover, and I don't have to please you in the process. If you don't like me going into treatment, if you think I'm letting your side down, I don't belong to your side anyway. I belong to the Fellowship of NA and I belong to myself. And so I put myself into an unfashionable treatment centre. I didn't want to finish up washing up for some movie star. I also didn't have very much money. But I went into treatment, and it was the second best thing I ever did. Because what had arrived was that I'd done all this service, and I'd been, organised and started a lot of meetings, was very, very active, and had not done the fucking steps. This is so common. I hadn't done the fucking steps. So I went into treatment. And luckily they were repeating an old TV show that I'd done, a series, during the time I was in treatment, which paid for it. And I did the steps deeply and painfully and thoroughly and enthusiastically and heartbreakingly. And I came out of there in a feeling that I'll never forget and I value for the rest of my life, which is a feeling of vulnerability. Like a lobster changing its shell, hides under a rock, and it's just soft jelly. And that's how I felt when I came back to London. And I wish that I didn't keep building up the shells again. Because that was the most valuable feeling, that feeling of vulnerability and humility. So that was me in the steps and the sponsor.
Brilliant. Or what was your first service commitment? So I'm now going to ask you, Dudley.
Yeah.
Question 4, what was your first service commitment, sir?
I think secretary, I'm not sure, because we all, we sat in this room trying not to kill each other, because we were so full of rage. And I remember saying that I'd do the coffee next week, and I remember lying awake half the night in a state of terror about how to make Nescafe. It's amazing what happens to you when you first come around. It's just the simplest things become major problems. I was in a terrible state. and I think I was the secretary as well at the time. I remember being treasurer of several meetings later on, and I had a drawer in my flat full of change and lots of little slivers of paper in there. I call them my Iona slips, I-O-N-A, the rent. I promise you, it all got paid. It all got paid. It all got honoured. I found committee work intolerable. I couldn't deal with it. It just got me into such a rage that I eventually stepped out of it. See, what I didn't want to do was be identified as a founder member of London NA. This seemed very important to some people, and they kept saying, come on, we're founder members. And I said, well, I don't want to, be-" because I know my own ego, and I know my own lunacy, and I just wanted to really hide at the back. I mean, not hide at the back because I want to be involved, but I didn't want to be prominent, and I certainly didn't want to have opinions. But one day, the convention committee in of the main office of NA in California got hold of me and said they wanted me to be flown over to New Orleans to speak at this convention. So I thought that would be brilliant. So I flew over to New Orleans. This extraordinary convention hotel is packed full of massive amount of NAs, a hell of a lot of them black, big black women, big fat black women, terribly funny. And I had to stand up and do this chair in front of several thousand people, which I kind of loved, you know. But it was frightening. But during the course of it, I talked about how I'd been cutting myself, in the sense that I was trying you get into trying to get orgasm, and you keep whacking away and everything, and then it begins to split. And I mentioned this word dick. I said my dick was like shredded. And everywhere I went into New Orleans for the rest of that week, all these big black women that come and say, "Hey, Dudley, how's the dick?" It was extraordinary. Then next time I went to another convention in San Jose, North California. The third time somebody rang up and I went, no, I don't want to be a circuit speaker. I'd seen a circuit speaker come over from America who did identical shares in 2 days and cried in exactly the same place each time. I thought, absolutely no fucking way. So back to square one, back to, reality.
Thank you. The question 6, if you do in brackets, how and when did you first start praying?
It's difficult because it suggests that once you start praying, you pray, and I don't pray very often. I pray when the shit hits the fan, like most people, and ask for help. It all seems to be forthcoming. I mean, my concept of a higher power, I had terrible trouble because I couldn't cut it out of my mind that it was tied up with cathedrals and priests, and it's not. It was so difficult. I think one of the most helpful remarks is see what you say in the literature. I'm not good at quoting literature. The way we fail is failing to adhere to spiritual principles. 3 of these are honesty, open-mindedness and willingness. Now once I accept that those are spiritual principles, then I can have a spiritual understanding. And so that's wonderful when I saw that. I pray usually when things get tight. I've said that for a long time I wrapped a cathedral around myself and it didn't do me any good, it just made it confusing.
Okay. So the next question is, number 7, is do you have a regular meeting that you attend, i.e. home group?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to tell us?
No.
Fantastic. Question 8. Have you ever 13-stepped anybody?
Well, let's be fair, I got pulled. Yes, and it was a big mistake. Somebody started rolling their eyes at me and knitted me a scarf. And I hate to say it, but I think I did it out of kindness more than anything else. It was a disaster, a total disaster. It was so bad that I went back for another taste. And then managed to squirm out of it. And for a year I found it very difficult being in the same room as this woman. Then another time I was just about to get somebody's kit off in the dressing room in the first London convention, where I was on the Arts and Graphics Committee. We had our own room, and I just got this girl who I fancied, and just about to get her belt unbuckled when a big knock came knocking at the door, so I had to pack it away. Anyway, I'm rather relieved that didn't happen actually. But after that, no.
Brilliant, thank you. Question 9, this is a personal one of mine I put in there. Is there a memorable character from the recovery rooms that springs to mind who isn't around anymore?
So many people died.
Yeah, I understand that. I think we should have wrote a book saying only in NA, because there's so many.
No, well, I mean in NA, you know, I don't want to answer that question really. It's too complex.
Too broad. Okay. Question 10. I might even take that question out, Dudley, actually.
No.
Question 10, which I think is going to be interesting for a lot of younger members when they look at it, is when did you first start sponsoring somebody?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I honestly can't remember. Oh, no, that's not true. I sponsor a fellow actor for 23 years who died recently. I sponsored a lovely man who was dying of cancer as well, an artist, and I sponsored him for the last few months of his chemo, his life. And I asked him one day, why did you ask me to sponsor you? He said, because you make me laugh. So I would turn up at the hospital with Private Eye and Oz magazine, a couple of other magazines. We would just crack up for an hour. It was heartbreaking. He was a deeply spiritual, deeply religious man, Catholic man. Taught me a lot, actually. A lot. So it's a hell of a privilege sponsoring people.
That's question 11 actually, is do you have sponsees at the moment?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. And question 12
sorry.
Go on, sorry.
I dread people that have too many sponsees. I think it's an ego trip, to be honest. I think so. I mean, there's some. I don't know.
Go on.
Well, there's some idiot in America in the Mother Fellowship who's got 48 sponsees. I mean, and he's turned it into an industry. And that goes, to me, utterly against. I mean, what I value most about the fellowship is the humility of it. By humility, I mean that we are made of the stuff that the earth is made of. Humus is the same root in the Greek. It doesn't mean ever so humble. It doesn't mean bowing down and kowtowing. It means accepting our deep equality and democracy. No stars, no grandees, no leaders. I mean, you know, I love the democracy of the fellowship, and anything that threatens it or exploits it seems to me against the grain. Sponsoring, as I understand it, is a deeply personal, loving relationship, a very careful relationship that is one of tremendous trust. And how you can do it with more than a very small handful of people, I don't know. It's also quite greedy because it prevents other people from having a go. There you are.
Thank you. This is an imaginary question, so it would be, what would you say to your former self if you had just walked into a meeting today? If you'd just met you today walking into a meeting?
Stick around. Stick around. You don't know what you want yet. You think you do, but you don't. I used to think I wanted to be a multi-millionaire, galactically famous film star, so I could lock myself in my trailer and use and abuse. I don't. I used to think the things that I thought I wanted when I came in are so far from the things that have been revealed to me that what I really care about are so different. So stick around, keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, shut up. Whatever you do, don't fuck off.
Thank you. Which Dudley's put forward very helpfully, and it's okay. Dudley hasn't put it forward. I made it up, and that is
only copyrighted.
Of course, and I'll contest that. Wildest dreams. I'm not sure of how to formulate this. Are there any wildest dreams left?
Well, it's this notion, isn't there? They say that your recovery will be beyond your wildest dreams. As somebody points out, only an addict would want something to be beyond his wildest dreams. So if your wildest dreams weren't enough. But I think what they mean is that we, as I said just now, our wildest dreams are so limited. We don't know. I didn't know that my peace would come from living alone, for a start. Would come from I thought I wanted to write the great British novel. I finished up writing comic verse, songs. When I get angry with the government, I write political songs. Very out of date, but they're very nice. And I do Glastonbury sometimes, Edinburgh Festival sometimes. I do the poetry circuit. Poetry circuit is wonderful because you meet angry 20-year-olds pouring out passionate verse, and I'm always terrified they're going to sort of turn on me and say fuck off, because I come on and I do comedy. But then comedy is really the thing for old people. Old people produce comedy. When you're young, it's all tragic and it has to be miserable. But it's that passion that is wonderful. I've worked with some amazing. I did a radio show with Kate Tempest, just the two of us in opposition, just not in opposition, but alternate poems. And we met in the middle, both doing something about William Blake. And I mean, it was such a privilege working with these passionate young people. You know, I mean, what do I know? I thought I wanted to be a star. My experience of stars, want to keep well away.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Dudley. That's brought us to the end of this recording. Really grateful again that you've taken your time out to allow this to happen, and I don't really know what else to say.
Don't say anything. Okay. Well, you were recording that bit, were you?
Yeah, just
I
in
thought
case.
It sounded like you're recording.
Yeah, I tried.